Hey there, and thanks for joining me for today's First Five. Today we take a look at Romans chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. If you're following along with our daily reading plan, Bible in the Year plan, it would be verses 1 through 8, but I really think I just want to focus in on those first two verses of chapter 12, and they go like this. You've probably heard them before, but I do think that they're super important. It says, Romans 12, verses 1 through 2, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So, here in verses 1 through 2, Paul is telling the church to present our bodies to God as a living sacrifice, an act of worship to God. So I think what Paul is trying to get out here is that true worship is the offering to God of our body and all that we do every day with it. Real worship doesn't just happen on a Sunday, although that's great. Real worship is the offering of everyday life to God. This probably isn't new information to any of us. However, I think it's just super important that we take a close look at what it really requires. In order to truly worship, to present our bodies as a living sacrifice to God, it requires a radical change for most of us. So how often do we say, "I'm going to church to worship God," or "I'm going into the sanctuary for the worship service"? Those would be normal expressions and uses for that word, worship. But how often do we say, "I'm going to the factory, I'm going to the office, I'm going to the kitchen, I'm going to school, I'm going to the garage, the garden, the field, the shop," you name it, to worship God? So I think Paul is trying to instruct us here that it takes transformation, and not necessarily transformation of outward things, but transformation of our minds and our hearts. Because when Christ comes into our lives, we are transformed. Our minds are made different. Our minds are made new. And that means regardless where we are, whether it's our job or in our homes, or at the sporting field, at dinner with friends, at church, anywhere, we present everything that we say and everything that we do and everything that we think as an act of worship. We can wear our work clothes to work or our gym clothes to exercise. We can wear fancier clothes to a party or to a wedding. But the point is, no matter what we wear on the outside, our insides remain unchanged. They stay constant because we are made new, and we are no longer centered upon ourselves, but we are centered upon Christ. And because of that, each and everything that we do should be considered as an act of worship. So maybe today we need to rethink the way that we use that word worship. Worship isn't just a song. It's not just part of the service where we sing. It's not just something that happens here on a Sunday at church. And it most definitely doesn't just happen when we're with people who are believers. Worship, in its purest and realest form, is an extension of who we are in Christ and a sacrifice of everything that we are. It extends beyond the church and is to invade every part of our mind and our hearts and our speech and our soul and our actions, everything. So maybe there's a way today that we can worship in a way that we never thought of before. Maybe there's something that we're holding back from God. Maybe we aren't worshiping with everything we have in every area of life. So think about what that might be for you today, and let God renew your mind and your spirit. And may you offer yourself, your whole self, as a living sacrifice to truly and purely worship God.